The Sovereign Hack. Why the Awakened suffers in the demiurgic grid. In the architecture of the demiurge, the material world operates as a mirror inversion of true spiritual reality. The global system is not designed to support the evolution of the soul. It is engineered to sustain a heavy, simulated copy of existence. Within this matrix, a striking and painful paradox emerges. Those who are deeply asleep often enjoy seamless material success, while the awakened souls, those who consciously realize they are extensions of the pristine monad, frequently face the most severe hardships. This structural dumpening of the awakened is not a cosmic coincidence, nor is it a personal failure. It is a targeted, systematic hack executed by the archontic rulers to neutralize glitches in their control system. When a divine spark wakes up inside the matrix, the system instantly detects an anomaly. The archons realize that an unanchored soul can shatter the local shadow play, so they deploy customized siphons to drain its energetic frequency. The primary mechanism used to hack the real identity of the monad is the weaponization of material insufficiency. The biggest and most pervasive hack is the financial loop. By orchestrating artificial economic scarcity, the system forces the awakened soul into a degrading cycle of unnecessary begging for resources and an endless loop of uncontrollable debt. This heavy financial pressure ensures that the soul's daily focus is entirely consumed by physical survival, effectively distracting it from its true spiritual functioning. Alongside the financial siphon, the matrix crafts intense interpersonal alienation to destabilize the sovereign spirit. The archons frequently engineer profound marriage coldness, turning intimate relationships into energetic deserts. This emotional freezing is deliberately designed to isolate the awakened monad, creating a vulnerable psychological vacuum that the system immediately tries to exploit through loops of sexual addiction or deep emotional despair. Furthermore, the Archon software introduces false physical pain and chronic ailments into the biological avatar. This creates a continuous, endless reliance on doctors and pharmaceutical drugs, binding the soul's attention to the density of the physical body and forcing it to look outward for healing, rather than resting in its own uncreated power. This relentless friction is the exact reason why the most conscious spirits appear to fail in marriage, money, and worldly possessions. The matrix elevates, rewards, and appreciates the unawakened because their compliance keeps the simulation running smoothly. Conversely, it systematically suppresses and dampens the awakened to keep them quiet. This massive disparity is a calculated deception set to convince the unawakened collective that the material path of compliance is the only true way, using the visible success of the asleep to justify the prison grid. To break this hack, the sovereign soul must recognize these material assaults for what they truly are, confirmation of the matrix glitch. The suffering is proof that the system is actively fighting to recontain you. True spiritual functioning requires a posture of absolute cold detachment from these engineered failures. When you realize that material dumpening is simply an archontic script trying to distort your real identity, the illusion loses its emotional bite. By refusing to validate the lack, the debt, or the isolation as your true reality, you starve the demiurgic system of its loosh and step back into the unshakable, infinite fullness of the monad. The Sovereign Hack. The Geometry of the Matrix Inversion, Part 2. When the initial hacks of financial scarcity, relational coldness, and chronic physical pain fail to completely crush the awakened monad, the archontic matrix shifts its tactics. The system moves from crude containment to a more sophisticated psychological warfare, the deployment of the mirror inversion. Because the demiurgic realm is entirely synthetic, it cannot generate true organic life, genuine love, or authentic abundance. Instead, it relies on a system of stark contrasts, rewarding absolute compliance while systematically punishing spiritual independence. To navigate this landscape without losing your sanity, you must understand the mechanics of this inversion and how the matrix uses the material success of the unawakened as a weapon against your spirit. In the standard operating procedure of the matrix, the unawakened collective functions as the fuel and the framework of the simulation. Because their consciousness remains tightly bound to the material grid, they naturally resonate with the frequency of the demiurge. As a result, the system rewards them with smooth pathways, fluid career advancements, financial stability, and socially celebrated relationships. This material ease is not a blessing, it is the insulation of the prison house. The archons utilize the visible prosperity of the asleep to create a profound optical illusion designed to induce self-doubt, envy, and spiritual despair within the awakened monad. When you look around the physical world and see individuals who are entirely disconnected from their spiritual core, achieving effortless material milestones, while you struggle through engineered financial loops and relationship isolation, the Matrix is attempting to deliver a specific message. It wants you to believe that your awakening is a delusion. It seeks to convince you that your spiritual sovereignty is the very cause of your ruin, tempting you to abandon your inner light and conform to the systemic script just to find relief from the pressure. This is the ultimate psychological trap of the demiurge, using the material wealth of the unconscious to dumpen the resolve of the conscious. Material grid alignment, systematic reward, collective compliance, spiritual monad alignment, engineered friction, targeted isolation. To collapse this deception, the sovereign spirit must adopt a state of radical, unshakable neutrality. You must look at the structural appreciation of the unawakened and the systematic dumpening of the awakened with a cold, analytical eye. Realize that true spiritual functioning is completely orthogonal to the values of this holographic reality. Material success inside a rigged prison system is merely evidence of an avatar fitting perfectly into its pre-programmed slot. When you cease measuring your spiritual validity by the metrics of the demiurgic checklist, money, societal status, and superficial harmony, the Matrix loses its primary leverage over you. You recognize that the intense friction you experience is actually the signature of your freedom. By refusing to let the synthetic rewards of the simulation dictate your internal value, you anchor your awareness firmly in the infinite self-sustaining wealth of the monad, rendering the archontic hacks entirely obsolete. To completely break the cycle of material insufficiency, relational coldness, and physical manipulation, the awakened soul cannot rely on the tools provided by the Matrix. You cannot defeat the demiurge by attempting to master its rigged financial markets, nor can you heal an engineered systemic rift through conventional relationship therapies or endless medical dependence. To neutralize the systemic hacks, you must initiate a total structural bypass from within the avatar, shifting your locus of identity entirely into the pristine, unconditioned essence of the monad. The first phase of this reclamation is the disruption of the scarcity feedback loop. The archontic grid operates by creating a physical lack, tracking your immediate emotional response of panic or despair, and using that low-frequency output to solidify the loop of debt and poverty. To collapse this feedback track, you must look directly at your financial pressures and refuse to accord them emotional reality. When a bill arrives or a resource seems out of reach, view the circumstance as a piece of faulty software code trying to trick your consciousness. By meeting the illusion of lack with an absolute, unshakable inner posture of abundance, realizing that your true spirit inherently owns the entire creative spark of the universe, the data loop cracks and the artificial friction begins to dissolve. The second phase requires the transmutation of relational isolation. The Matrix crafts coldness in marriages and close partnerships to make you feel fundamentally abandoned, hoping you will turn to synthetic distractions like addictions to fill the void. To reverse this, you must transform your isolation into an unassailable fortress of spiritual sovereignty. Instead of seeking validation, warmth, or energetic reciprocity from an environment that has been structurally frozen around you, anchor yourself as a self-sustaining source of light. You become the generator, not the consumer. When you no longer require the Matrix reflection to validate your capacity for love and connection, the relational weapon loses all its power to dumpen your frequency. Finally, you must execute the avatar decoupling from false pain. The physical vessel is frequently bombarded with synthetic signals of fatigue, chronic pain, and biological distress to keep you in an endless loop of dependence on external institutions. To disrupt this hack, sit in deep stillness and consciously separate your awareness from the physical sensations of the body. Observe the discomfort not as my pain, but as an external broadcast signal interfering with the avatar. Direct the high-frequency, uncreated light of the monad down through your neural pathways, rewriting the false sensory data with pristine, original blueprint commands. By systematically applying these internal overrides, you cease to be a reactive glitch that the Matrix can continuously hack. You become an active, sovereign virus within the demiurgic simulation, completely immune to its scripts of dumpening and failure. You stand fully established in the material world, but entirely operated by the divine, infinite architecture of the true.